MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. As someone who spent 15 years as a medical technologist in the healthcare system and another 20 plus years in the Food and Drug Administration's orbit and the pharmaceutical industry, I am extremely interested in this topic. There's a lot to unpack and a lot I think we should discuss today on the Carnivore Science Channel. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I wanted to have a conversation about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. This is the new campaign led by Bobby Kennedy to overhaul a lot of the medical industrial complex. I believe the mandate is going to be fairly broad. It's going to approach food, pharma, agriculture, I think as a whole, which is a very, very good thing. But there are a couple of takeaways from this. First of all, in the carnivore space, I see a lot of people talking about how a lot of this movement is going to, I guess, go more mainstream. And what I wanted to discuss is that that's not exactly maybe how this is going to pan out. And you never know. I don't say that I know the future, but understand if you kind of get your hopes up thinking that all of a sudden carnivore is going to explode and it's going to take over the nation and everybody's going to be eating meat and all that kind of stuff. I've heard some people saying that. There's not a lot of people saying that, but understand that the changes that are about to happen, if they indeed do roll out, are going to be huge, like enormous, to the point where a lot of companies are going to have to either learn how to adapt to a healthier way of life or they're going to become extinct. Economically, this will have an impact, and I'm not saying, we should keep selling garbage and poisoning everybody because it would affect the economy. It has to be done properly. It has to be rolled out in the right way. If it's rolled out in the right way, you could give incentives for companies to be healthier as opposed to poisoning the population. So I believe all of that's been taken into consideration from everything I've seen. It seems like you have leaders in industry who are actually going to weigh in on this, which is important because the government doesn't know how to do anything but waste money, honestly, or make people dependent. It doesn't know how to do anything correctly. So if you have industry leaders or business professionals in there helping with this transition, I believe it has all the possibilities of going smoothly. And I believe that most people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. A lot of people are. There's a lot of people who want to continue to be addicted to food as well. There's a significant amount of people who like the status quo, that sort of thing. So and this is not meant to be a divisive video. This is not about politics really at all. It plays into politics because one party is talking about this and one is not. But at the current state, I mean, things are fluid in politics. Like one era, you'll have one party focusing on one thing and then it'll flip and then the other. So throughout history, you can see that. That's just as time goes by, that's the way it works. But right now you have one party who is focusing on this, and the facts remain the same regardless of your political opinions. The facts are, number one, big food poisons everyone, and it is poisoning. Everyone is being slowly poisoned with all of the chemicals and additives in the food. They didn't know what any of these things would do. They did a little study here and there. Some things are studied more than others, but overall there's not extensive testing that goes on. And again, that's the definition. Extensive testing. What the hell does that mean? What does extensive testing mean? Is there a protocol? Is there an outline? Is there a plan? Not really. And what you do have is kind of high level. And if you look at it this way, when you have say a clinical trial for a drug, it's very rigorous. There's a lot that goes into it. But the thing that's not there, the thing that's not looked at is nutrition. Because if you have, say, 10 people that you're going to do, let's say you have 10 people that you're going to do a study on, and you were like, all right, these 10 people are healthy people. When you look at if you don't look at the nutrition, then each one of those people are potentially a different formulation of human, if you want to put it that way. They have different things in their body. They have different, and all people are different, like some people are at different states of health. But if you say everybody's healthy and you're going to test a drug in all of these people, what you don't know is that inside, depending on how long they've been eating crappy food, they may not physically, when you say somebody's healthy, you've got markers that you can test to see if metabolic health is okay and all this kind of stuff, but you don't really know what it's done to their systems. You can have impact to different systems and you wouldn't necessarily know it, because contrary to popular belief, physicians don't know everything. The test that we do on people is not omnipotence. We do not know 100% of how the body works. The body is extremely complicated. So the thing is like, if I say, if you're going to formulate a drug, and I'm not saying all drugs are bad, but if you're going to formulate a drug, then you should take into consideration everything there is to know about your subjects. And nutrition is just discounted. It's not even looked at, but it is what fuels our body. It is what makes us move. It is life. So life or death. And so to not take that into consideration means that your studies are not as valid as they should be. So I'm hoping, number one, I'm hoping that the pharmaceutical industry will have to do unbiased studies. If they want to formulate a drug, the studies have to be unbiased. The results have to be transparent. And it needs to be controlled in a way. All the other type of controls, randomization schedules, participants, the selection process, all of that stuff is great, right? Placebos and blinding the studies. That's great, okay? But the nutrition aspect is missing from that. So that needs to be added. It needs to be transparent. And also, if you knew how the inside, as a pharmaceutical insider, I know how the industry works. If you knew how they chose what drugs they do and do not, end up going to market with, it's very, very corrupt. So, and this is America, and you can make anything you want. But if these companies are making things that harm people, and they should not be allowed to do that. Risk reward is a different thing. But the fact that if you have certain things, there's certain types of medications where it's a trade-off. If you're going to correct an issue or mitigate a symptom and there may be side effects, you have to look at it with a risk-reward type of situation. Like, is this giving me something more than, it's going to cause me trouble? Like, if you're taking a medication, an experimental new drug or some kind of new drug that is for eczema, and it causes heart failure, that would be stupid, because a rash versus you're going to damage your heart by taking this drug potentially. So that type of thing. So if people want to do the risk reward, weigh things, and there are drugs that people want to take because of whatever condition they're trying to mitigate, that's fine. But the studies cannot be controlled by the companies they need to have some type of separation from the actual studies that are done. You can't have people weighing in on certain things. I mean, early on, yeah, that's fine. Okay, the companies pursue whatever research they do, but then at some point there needs to be protocols in place that are completely unbiased, and we need to verify that they are unbiased so that the individuals who are evaluating the evidence will do so in a way that protects the public, because the government agencies are there to protect the public. The FDA is there to protect the public, not the pharmaceutical industries. And right now, there's too much of that going on. There's too much of the FDA being in bed with the actual pharmaceutical industry. And that is 100% true. If you look at the pipeline of employees, you'll look at FDA employees, they leave the FDA and they go work for the drug companies and vice versa. So it's what they've called things in the past a good old boys club. It's kind of like that, but it's just not appropriate, and there's a lot of people being harmed. If you look at Vioxx, and they knew Vioxx was going to cause heart conditions, and yet they did it anyway. That has just recently come out. This was in 97, I think it was. Caused a lot of damage. Ozempic is one right now. I can tell you without having any studies in my face, I've looked at some of the side effects that have been reported. I've looked at some of the adverse events. I don't even have to look at that though to tell you that Ozempic is a bad idea. Hijacking your normal bodily processes because you don't want to fix the real problem is insane. What do you think if you hijack a process in your body? You're going to stop it from doing a thing it is supposed to do. Then what do you think is going to happen? Especially over time. If you have over time, you're going to take a medication for a long time. What do you think? Your body is going to change. It's probably not going to be able to work the way it should, depending on how long you're actually on these things that are actually hijacking these systems. They're putting people on drugs longer and longer and longer that are not supposed to be. A proton pump inhibitor is another example of like the esomeprazole stuff, the acid reflux medication. I know people who've been on that for 10 years. That is not recommended. It's like a month or something. It might be either a month to 6 months or something, but it's not your entire life. People take Ambien for sleep for 10 years, 20 years, or however long that's been out. I know people who have been on it since I've known them, and I've known people, it had to be for 15 years. There are people taking all of these medications forever. That is not, and it's in the literature that you're not allowed to do that. So there is rampant corruption by the physicians, by the drug companies. They're in bed together. People are not fixing what is wrong. That is the bottom line. Just about every drug I can name does nothing but hijack a bodily process to cure a symptom. The question is, and the thing that we are going to have to get back to, especially I am hoping with this MAHA movement, they can get back to that. Just this, if we can do just this, what is the dysfunction? Why did the body fail? Why did the organ fail? Why did the process fail? What is causing it to fail? And a big chunk of the time, the answer is going to be, well, you're eating poison, and that made you very sick. A lot of times it's not, and there has to be modern medicine and drugs for things like that. But the first step in assessing how to cure disease and how to fix problems is to ask why. Why did this happen? Why is my body not working the way it is supposed to? We must answer that question. And I hope that MAHA will answer that question through the food, through agriculture, through pharmaceuticals, all of it. I pray that this is what they're going to do. I have no idea if it is, because I don't know. When it comes to the political arena, I expect just about anything to happen. I think the people who are looking to do this have good intentions. You never know though, when you get, it's kind of like, you have people who 100% believe that vegetables are the way and that being a vegan is the way to live and it is the most healthy way to live. And we as carnivores know that is absolutely not true, because if you have to supplement with vitamin B, it's obviously not, because what did the cave people do? They didn't have a Rite Aid. So, there's some common sense stuff when you look at it. Now, does that mean that it's all or nothing with us? Maybe not. I don't know. I always leave room to realize subtleties and things like that. But mostly, I feel good about the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet cured all of my problems, 100%, and I had a lot of them. I have a video that I'll link at the end where I tell my story. I am playing a video game, so pardon me, but got to multitask. But I talk about a lot of the things that, and it's kind of a high level type of thing, because there's so many things that carnivore fixed for me. I can't even remember them half the time. I had PTSD really bad, and I didn't even notice that it fixed that until I had started talking about all of the things that were repaired. So if you haven't given it, if you're here and you're listening to this and you haven't given carnivore a try and you've got issues that you're dealing with or weight that you have to lose, give it a try. What do you got to lose? It's food. The good news is it's actually food. It's not Franken food that you shouldn't put in your mouth. That's what I'm hoping. Again, go back to the MAHA movement. I'm hoping that they will fix the Franken food. Ban the Franken food. It shouldn't be put in your mouth. Would you sell gasoline for people to drink? No, you wouldn't, because it will make them sick. It'll make people sick. It'll hurt people. So I'm hoping for this. I am hoping that here's an idea. If they were to focus, let's say, given how much time I guess they're going to have, if they were going to clean things up, let's just say on the food end. On the food end, if you could just get the most poisonous things out of the food supply, like say for instance, if you didn't make the Fruit Loops multicolored and you just made them like tan or whatever they are, like, whatever the color they are, like that they sell in Canada, that's a step in the right direction. If you were able to at least minimize most of the sugars, because let's say that massive sweeping changes aren't made. Even if you say by 50% cut out the harmful, and I want more than this, let me just make this clear, I want a lot more than this, I want to go all the way with this, but if you were able to get the dyes out of the food and most of the sugar, or you had limits on how much sugar that you put in things, because some of this stuff is horrible. I mean, horrible. All of our children are overweight. They are sick. If you are overweight, you are sick. Even if you feel okay, you're sick. Your body is not supposed to carry around extra weight like that. That's not normal. And I'm not saying anything about what someone appears like, what they look like. This is not what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about people of different, there's people who are different sizes. I mean, they're just, not everybody has the same shape and frame. I'm talking about obesity. Obesity in kids is unforgivable. Unforgivable. It makes me livid when I think about it. When I go out in public and I see a child and they weigh more than me, and this kid, I've seen kids that are 8 years old that are 10 years old that weigh more than I do. And that is shameful. It's shameful. And it is the food that's doing it. It is not because anybody's lazy. It's not because people are lazy. And if you eat less and move more, it will not fix the problem, because it is the poisons that you're eating that is causing all of this for the most part. I mean, again, if you sit around and eat all day, if you're addicted to food and you're eating too much, that's a different issue, because addiction has to be addressed also. So, well, I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping, so to summarize, because I'm ranting, because this is very important to me. And I am excited. I don't want to make anybody think I'm not very excited. I'm extremely excited. They're talking about this. They did a congressional panel or something with Michaela Peterson, Bobby Kennedy, Jordan Peterson, and a couple other people who were talking about food. They were talking about how they had to stop eating the garbage in order to cure their disease. That's amazing. That is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, that's something I never expected to happen, much less what's about to happen with the overhaul of the agencies, hopefully. So I'm very excited. But again, it will have to be done properly. You will have to approach it in a way. It's kind of like what Sean Baker had said about there's not very much evidence to prove that grain-fed cattle or the meat from grain-fed cattle versus grass-fed the differences in the nutrition value and all that kind of stuff. And that being said, we know that people who leave the standard American diet and they only eat meat, when they go to, if they have grain or lower quality like beef or grain-fed beef and that kind of thing, they get better. They get better no matter what the caliber of meat they eat. So he was saying, if you go all or nothing and scorched earth and say, well, we can't do any feedlot, I think it's feedlots is what he called it, but basically like you stop feeding any cows and they never get grain and all this kind of stuff. There's reasons for that. So I think there's legitimate reasons for actually feeding cows grain at some time. But I mean, I guess you can go either way. There's a whole lot, there's a big spectrum of how cows are treated and what they're fed. You can go all the way to bad practices, or you can have a little of both of these worlds, I guess. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but based on everything I'm hearing, as long as you have a moderate approach to that and you don't obliterate the beef supply, which is very important. Because imagine you could have, if you had MAHA being promoted, let's say that the person in charge of that it was a vegan. I mean, what would we do? You know, I have nightmares sometimes that as a carnivore, that someone is going to mess with the meat supply. All of a sudden, like if let's say some kind of disease went through and infected all the cows and infected a lot of the animals, and we woke up and we weren't able to get our meat, that would be horrifying. I mean, honestly, that's something that keeps me up sometimes. It's like, what if something like that happened? And I don't even mean like, you know, catastrophic apocalypse type of thing and all the animals are dead. I'm talking about like, what if, because let's be honest, I don't go out and shoot deer. I just don't. So I wouldn't know how to dress an animal if my life depended on it. I guess I'd figure it out if my life did depend on it. But I go to the grocery store. So if the food supply, which has been interrupted before, 2020, anybody. So if the food supply was interrupted, like what would we do? You know, so if vegan got in office and said, I want to get rid of everybody eating meat or something crazy, you know what I mean? So just think of it that way. Like, you can always, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Let's put it that way. So I think that what Sean Baker was saying about, you can't just ban everything and you can't go in there. And plus there's not, well, from what he's saying and from what I've seen a lot of people heal themselves off of grain-fed beef. And me personally, and this has nothing to do with nutrition per se, but the taste of the meat, I can't eat grass-fed. I mean, I can, but I don't prefer grass-fed because it tastes gamey to me. So if you have something that is off-putting taste-wise and you're trying to get people to eat more meat, you're going to have a better chance of it sometimes, maybe. I don't know, unless you just don't notice it. You're going to have a better chance if people can eat the grain-fed, I guess, or partially grain-fed. Because it can fix their medical problems, it can heal them, and they're more likely to eat something that they like the taste of. So you have a lot of things to consider, but from the pharmaceutical industry, so I will summarize, I'm going off, but number one, the pharmaceutical industry, unbiased studies that take nutrition into account. Number two, that are transparent. Number two, the agricultural industry, we're being poisoned. Our fruit and vegetables are, they've been genetically engineered to be like sugar bombs in some cases. Not all, but in some cases, like they're huge, they're full of sugar. You're making them as addictive as candy. That's not healthy. And I get there's considerations there too about having to make more abundant produce so that you can feed more people, that sort of thing. I understand. Again, we need to improve. Continuous improvement means that you continually make things better, a piece at a time. If you do something, it needs to be worth the cost of whatever you're doing needs to be worth it. It needs to give you a benefit. So cost benefit analysis on everything that we do and every step of the way. So that's the agricultural industry. There's a lot of problems in there. Number three, so I've got pharma, covered pharma, transparency, nutrition. Two, agriculture, got a lot of problems there. I'm less versed on that. Food, stop poisoning the public with obvious things. ban seed oils. They should not be sold for people to eat. Again, I'm not going to give you a cup of gasoline and make you drink. I'm not going to give somebody gasoline to drink. I would not give you seed oils to drink. They should not be touched. They should not be a thing. There's a lot of substances that actually were byproducts from industrial processes that they wanted to actually use, kind of like fluoride was. After the war, they had all of this fluoride they needed to do something with, and they put it in toothpaste. I know, horrifying, but it's just the way it works. So a lot of people don't even know that. So there's a lot of things like seed oils. These are like industrial lubricants. This is not something you should put in your mouth. They didn't know what it would do. We found out the hard way, and so did my father, as a matter of fact, because my mother insisted on, but she didn't know any better. She was told, well, you got to start feeding him corn oil. Yeah, he had really bad arterial sclerosis later in life, because at the time they lived, like they converted to all of that stuff in the 70s, early 70s, probably Crisco. Whenever Crisco came out, that is what they ate, like 24/7, and they ate margarine, and we all know where that led. So all of the things, if you don't know what it's going to do to people, don't mess with it. If you do not put it in the food, if you don't know definitively the effect or impact something's going to have on someone, it should be eradicated from the food supply. There are ways to make food preserved, to protect it, to manufacture things in a way that are not the cheapest and completely cheapest, like bottom rung way to make things, but at the same time make them not as toxic. I mean, granted, you have to have preservatives in food if you're going to have shelf stable foods. I understand that. But there's some really top tier level dumb shit that's going on in food industry. They're trying to make as much money as possible in some cases, and there's not a consideration of harming people. There's really not. When they formulate, there's not a consideration of that, hey, we're starting to use this compound, like we really don't know what it's going to do, and they're just allowed to do it. So that would mean that the GRAS oversight would have to be much, much better. It needs to be beefed up. It needs to be legitimate. And there needs to be oversight, not oversight on, we make things impossible and we have 100 pounds of red tape, just common sense oversight. So the GRAS, in case you don't know, is FDA has generally recognized as safe when it comes to food ingredients, and they're looking at stuff that are submitted. If somebody puts in a new ingredient or formulates something, it's sent to them and they look at it. It is not like you don't have clinical trials for the ingredients in food. That's just for drugs. You do have people looking at things, but it's kind of like, I can put money on the fact I'm 100% positive that it depends on who submits it, what company it is, who has a special interest in it, what lobbyist is pushing for what thing. I mean, it's all tied up in a political soup. So that needs to stop. You need to actually, the Food and Drug Administration need to go back to what they used to do originally. Protect the public. Make sure that the food they get is safe. Make sure the drugs are safe, pure, and effective. Make sure that the USDA or whoever, I don't know how these are going to be structured, but whoever needs to fix the food supply, the produce and things like that, the vegetables we grow, need to be not sprayed with pesticides that are going to end up hurting us. We're doing things that make no sense, and a lot of it has to do with so that's the three pillars, like the food, the drugs. We just, in big pharma, big food, and big ag, we need to actually use our brains and critically think. Just think through all of this, look at the evidence, look at what's really there, and determine a path forward. The best path forward we can do. You can't wipe everything out. You can't just wipe everything off the map and rebuild it completely. That's not the way it'll work. But we can do things. There's a lot of things we can do to make things better. And eventually, maybe we'll get to that point where, we have everything's in a state where we can be proud of our food supply and we can be proud of our medical establishment. And MAHA, I don't know, when it comes to physicians and insurance and big health, that needs to be ripped apart at the seams, because what physicians are doing, the fact that my doctor was angry that I cured my thyroid condition by taking an iodine supplement, something should have happened to her for that. I don't think people understand how wrong that is. My doctor was angry that I lost my weight myself doing what I said instead of her. She was angry that I took iodine supplementation to fix my thyroid. She was angry that I went on carnivore and I cured all of my ailments. She was a failure. That is exactly the truth. She failed, and she shunned me and didn't want me as a patient anymore. Try to do something with that. We need to get angry. And guess what? Those physicians, I don't give a crap how long they went to school. I went to school for a long time, but I don't go around making other people feel like shit because they did not. So first of all, you can't treat people the way physicians treat people. They need to really suck it up and learn how to act like a human being, because they are in the business of do no harm. And that seems to be the only thing they're interested in doing lately. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, but there's good physicians. If there are, let's see, past 20 years, I've met 2, and I've actually met a lot. So the superior, snide, haughty, know-it-all bullshit that's going on, that needs to stop. I don't know why it's there. I don't know why they do it. I don't really care why they do it. But like I told her, they can shove it. So if you are a doctor, you are supposed to heal people. You are supposed to be knowledgeable about things. But guess what? You're also supposed to know that you don't know everything, because you do not, as a physician, know everything there is to know about the human body. There's a lot of things that we've learned, a lot, and medicine has come a long way, but you do not, hear me, you do not know everything. And you are not omnipotent, and you are not God. And that is who made the human body. And it was made in a way to eat real food and live a certain way, get enough sleep. There's a lot of things that are super common sense that don't need a prescription pad. But have any of you physicians out there ever recommended that? I'm going to say for the majority, it's a no. Not all. There are good physicians out there. There are people who are actually sounding the alarm about all this stuff. And they have caught a lot of crap for it. Dr. Chafee, Sean Baker, a lot of very smart, kind individuals who care about other people. That is what we need in our medical community. We need it desperately, because we are all, to quote I think this was a documentary, fat, sick, and nearly dead. So I have high hopes for the MAHA movement. Regardless, I don't care I hate politics, but I do appreciate what it is that these people are trying to do, if they're indeed trying to do it, because again, I can't predict the future. I don't know the intentions, and I don't know what people's real intentions are, but it seems like at least some of the players really care about trying to fix these problems. I mean, think about it. One of the things, if you look at even billionaires or people who are in high political office who have a lot of power, if we don't do something about this, what do you think is going to happen to the nation? If we're all fat, sick, we can't protect ourselves, we can't defend ourselves, we can't fight, we can't get enough people. Like if something happens globally, let's say we're attacked or something, we're going to be like that movie WALL-E, where we're all floating around on those hover beds or whatever. It's like that's where we're ending up. We are in dire straits. We are in a bad way right now. If you look at, and I will bring this up and I'm going to shut up, I swear. You should watch my video on unintentional consequences of carnivore. You can't shut up. So I'm experiencing that unintentional consequence right now. But if you look at it that way, like what would we do? So people who have a lot of power, even some people who have some common sense and have a lot of power, if they have children and they have families and they're like, so when my kid grows up, all the money in the world is not going to help them if like we're obliterated as a nation, or if we're invaded, or we can't protect ourselves. We're not going to be, if we're all sick and weak and feeble, what do you think is going to happen in the nation? People don't look at history and they don't look forward at what the future holds if you don't do the things you need to do. If you don't plan for the future, I mean, this could be catastrophic. If we don't fix this now, and why would we do that to our children? Why would we do it to our children now? Why would we do this to our children? Just because we grew up eating birthday cake and eating garbage and eating Skittles, and we enjoyed our candy and we loved our pies and our McDonald's and all of our fast food and everything, we didn't know. But now that you know that it's poison, you're no better than, I mean, if you're just gonna keep eating this stuff that you know is gonna damage your body, it's no different than just ignoring the fact that you have an alcohol problem or any other type of drug addiction. So as a nation, we're addicted, we're sick, and we need help. So I'm hoping that the MAHA movement is actually here to help us. Comment below what you think and what your opinion is and where you think this is going, and anything that you think would be a good idea. I mean, because I think we as a nation have to speak up and give our ideas and give our opinions, because there's a lot of smart people in this nation and we need to come together to find solutions. So I'll see you guys later. I'm going to shut up now. Swear to God. Bye.